So this program here, for instance, an example, we're just in the first semester. An example of the courses that were the first semester were the structure of the Georgia education system. So what would students then be looking for in the practicum? What would possible activities be for them to bring that to the real world here in Tbilisi? So while they are studying the big picture of Georgian system of education, they can go to local schools and be able to first of all become acquainted with it, understand it, and get some understanding of local system of a school, your K-12 education system. Why would they do that? Because also as they progress in their education and know about education policies, these policies in action will be in evidence in the school. Also, the other part of it is, if this student later decided to be a ministry official and make education policy, it would be very helpful for them to know what that policy looks like in the school. The other, one of the other courses, I believe it is called Educational Leadership, but it was Organizational Behaviors. They then also, through interviews with local school directors, are able to see what that looks like in real life. This is actually the cover of the Ilia State University practicum. I don't know if you got it on your cover, but it's just a graphic that really shows that the academic courses are intricately linked to the field experiences, supported by individual reflections which are then shared. The reflective process cannot be emphasized enough. As I said, that is where the making of meaning takes place for the student and deeper understanding. I'd just like to mention, there's Donald Schoen again, The Reflective Practitioner. That's a really good book. I'd like to mention that the students in Katie's class in the practicum are posting their reflections online on a program called Moodle, which is a public forum which they're able to use, but it's also a key part of the reflective process to share that with others as well for discussion processes. Is that right, Katie? Did I say that right? Yes. And I actually saw that last week on Monday when I was at your class. So they were posting them, and they can share them, read them, and then bring back and share their experiences. The outcomes of the practicum are, first and foremost, and this comes from that reflective process too, to refine a personal philosophy and vision of the education process. I like to say, from my own experience with students, I used to tell them they have their moral rudder in place. And during this process, they know their own personal commitments, values, and they place their experience into that context. And so, as a school leader or education leader, you have the constructs of academic knowledge, but you have your moral rudder having somewhat set to be able to act in a way that's consistent with your own personal values in those multitude situations that will appear every day. I mentioned the standards, and the standards can be thought of as a continuum. So the students in a practicum would demonstrate a beginning competency in those areas, in the 6 aspects of leadership. They would also possess a working knowledge of school organization and management theory. They would have studied those in academic courses, and they would have merged that theory to practice in the practicum. They would possess a practical knowledge of the field action research study, because in this 3rd semester, all students will conduct a field action research study project, and that will be supported by the research class, which is concurrent. So it isn't as if we just send you out to do the research project, but you're supported by by the academic course and research at the same time. They will gain experience and confidence in his or her professional abilities for future employment, so that they would be able to present themselves as a competent and, oops, there you are. Is anybody here in that picture? That was taken last Monday. It looks like our students are doing quite well, right? At least they're enjoying a light moment during class. So that was here in the practicum here at Ilias State University last Monday. And that is the program that we are now in progress in working with. And I am now here for questions. So I know that's a lot in a short amount of time. Yes, Emmett.
Hey, I just, something you said actually was really interesting, and I feel like we're struggling with it, and I'd just like to get your reaction. You know, in the States, we started off looking at this management piece very strongly, and then moved now toward that's kind of a given in the discussion, and really focusing on teaching and learning. And I think that here in Georgia, it's a struggle between those two pieces, because if you don't have a well-run, safe, managed school, if your facilities are a problem or something, how can you focus on the teaching and learning? Can you talk a little bit about, and I know that we're in the process of developing this program here, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but how are we thinking about that in terms of preparing educational leaders to balance those two things?
Well, I think, traditionally, historically, management and an efficient organization has been at the base of educational leadership. That has been sort of the course of action. But as we move towards what is the purpose of schooling, what is the purpose of education, and of building educated students who will participate in a democracy, the big picture, and of making sure that there is a quality education for every student. And that is connected to the mission. I'm going to get there in just a minute. But you have to make sure that your education is for every student, not just for this group over here who are showing that they really want to learn, every student. So to place the emphasis, it isn't that management is not in the picture. And yes, a chaotic environment for any learning institution is not going to be conducive to learning, but it is not the priority. It is necessary. It's a necessary element. So we are trying to put it forward as a necessary element, but not on top of the educational leadership piece. Instruction.
I would just say that it's, in the project in general, I think it's a really struggle, because we're also working with funding formulas, and how do you put that education piece forward? So, and it's great to hear you say that we're trying to get that outcome of student achievement in the beginning when we're working on policy issues on funding formulas. How do you pull student achievement or the learning process into funding formulas and not just look at the administrative side of funding the school?
Well, we have to get back to the basic of the purpose of education. So that's part of the answer. Yes, Simon.
It was very interesting to hear about why the students or the program designers would be interested to send their students or themselves, the students or themselves, to the schools, and what their motivation is. But what is the motivation of the institutions like schools or the others in the United States to accept the interns?